So let's just head over here to these the smaller raised beds. I call them the mini beds or baby beds, whichever. So I actually reseeded the sugar snap peas. I reseeded them in July, I believe, and they're just now getting ready to flower. And I really like these because the flower is really pretty. When I originally seeded them, I couldn't remember if this was the edible version or the inedible, so I pulled it out and reseeded it. And it turns out it actually was the edible version that I had originally planted, but I just had to be sure. And so down here I have seeded some carrots. I did that about a month ago. And so I'm super excited to have carrots this fall. I actually might try to seed some more in a different location. That and maybe some beets. Here is my bucket where I put some onion. What are they called? Are they offsets? Can't remember. But I added some little onions earlier in the season. I have no idea how these are going to turn out because it once was full of the onion tops, and now that those all died off, and I pulled a few out and they were still really small. So I'm just letting it sit right there and just seeing what happens. This pot actually needs to go. It's pretty much done. I'm going to cut those little onion shoots. They are actually garlic chives, and then there's basil, and then there is sage in there, and we're pretty much done with this pot. So in between I have lettuce growing and green peppers. The green peppers I started earlier this season, like way early. They are just now starting to produce peppers for me. It was a struggle with these because some pest was eating all of the leaves, so I think that really stunted the plant. But now it seems to be happy. I threw some lettuce seeds in there a couple weeks ago, and they're growing, so we'll see. I haven't had success with lettuce so far. I don't know why it doesn't work for me, but it just doesn't. So we'll see. The second bed here, I pulled out the amaranth that was there. I know there's a video on that. I think it was my last video where I cut down the amaranth and took it out. And I was trying to save the seeds, and I had them drying in my screened-in porch. But one of the cats came and laid on my seed tray and had all the seeds all over his body. So I'll have to try again. I have a couple small amaranth plants up there by the screened-in porch, so we'll see if I can get any seeds from there. If not, it's super cheap to grab some from the store. So in this bin right here, I have some cherry. Are these cherry or grape tomato plants? These things are kind of puttering out, so it'll be about time to pull those out soon. In the middle between these beds, I have a few other tomato plants. They are cherry tomatoes, and I've really enjoyed the cherry tomatoes this year. They've been so sweet and just perfectly ripe. They're so delicious. We just pull them right off of the plant, wipe them on our shirt, and pop them in our mouth. They are delicious. I have some marigolds that I pulled out of the big raised garden beds, and I planted them in here just because they were taking up so much space. So I decided that they needed their own planter. Now this third bed, actually had a climbing spinach plant on a trellis, and that plant was kind of getting out of hand. It was vining everywhere, and we didn't really harvest it enough to make it, in my opinion, worthwhile to keep going. So we went ahead and pulled that out. And then once that happened, I've got some kale, or is that kale? Greens in the back, which haven't really done well to sprout. There is lettuce, and there is What is that? I want to say that's cabbage, but it might be something else. And I do see that there is a pest issue here that I'm going to have to address. You can see right there, there's some damage. And back there is a failed seed starting tray. I failed epically with that. It started off good, and then I think the light wasn't right, and by the time I moved it outside, it was just a mess. So I just have not touched it. Just kind of left it right there. Over here are more tomatoes. They are pretty much done. There's a couple tomato babies on there that I might wait out and see if they'll ripen, but I think the tomatoes over here they're just tired. They're done. We were able to harvest quite a bit, but not as much as I expected. But you know, next year I'll try some different things and see what will work. So over here are our larger raised beds, and I have taken out so many things. The zucchini is gone, the squash is gone, and some of the marigolds in this bed are gone, and that actually opened it up to more light and space. I ended up planting some more Swiss chard, some more greens, some cabbage, some spinach over here. I have a poblano right here that is finally waking up. It was doing nothing this whole summer since I planted it, and now it's finally giving me some little peppers. So I'm super excited about that. And it's got some bigger ones over here. We love poblanos. We actually love to stuff them. Stuff them with like rice, cheese, and beef, and then bake them in the oven, and they are like a spicy, delicious dinner, which I love. So here is my original cherry tomato plant. This is actually just one plant, and it was so much bigger than it is now. I've been pruning it quite a bit and letting it take over this trellis that we built. And it just, I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed this cherry tomato. Like, it has been so delicious. The kids come out and pick cherry tomatoes off, eat them. We just love it so much. Like, it really has been just such a good little plant. And we actually started this from seed in May, spring at some point, and it's done so well. Over here are my Roma tomatoes. They're doing okay. They're ripening up, which is good. Kind of took a while for them to really start ripening. I've been pruning this plant back quite a bit. It has been attacked by aphids. There's been some sort of issue with the leaves. I don't know what exactly this is, if it's fungal or, you know, something else. But it hasn't affected the fruit in a way where, you know, it's inedible. But I'm not too well versed on tomato diseases or things like that to really be able to say exactly what it is and what was going on. Let's see what else. We've got some green peppers in here that are just now starting to put on fruit. I don't know why my peppers have taken so long to really put on fruit. Maybe it's being crowded, maybe it's not enough sun, I'm not sure. But everything else in, you know, this bed over here does fine. This area, when it is a sunny day, not cloudy, it gets like about 6 hours of sun. So down here are my Brussels sprouts, and if you remember, I got these for about 50 cents each from a local grocery store, Kroger, and they've been doing pretty well. They kind of took a while to start really putting on growth, like a few months, but now that it's kind of cooled down, they really are growing pretty well. The cabbage worms love them. So those little white butterflies that you may see fluttering around your garden are laying eggs under the leaves. So over here are my bigger tomatoes, and I think these are, I'm trying to think, are they Big Daddy tomatoes, or I can't remember. They're a bigger variety. They're doing pretty well. They've taken quite a bit of time to start ripening up, but now that once that ripening process started, it seems like just one after the other is starting to ripen, and they are delicious. We love them. I've had to cut this plant back a couple times. I've had to tie it up a couple times and tie it back a few times. It's just been growing so crazily and flopping over. It's kind of been a, you know, a lot to handle every day I come out, and part of it's, you know, hanging over the flower beds. So next year definitely gonna work on better trellises and structures for these type of plants. And I'm also not going to put my tomato plants into the raised beds. I'm going to do separate pots for each tomato plant. I think that might be the trick. It might make it easier for me to tie them back and tie them up. And if what you see over here hanging over the edge, this is our first year asparagus. And the first year you don't really harvest it. You kind of just let it do its thing. And then next year you can start harvesting the asparagus, and I'm looking so forward to that because we love asparagus. Next year's garden is going to be more of a focus on what we actually eat, what we actually love, and then I'm going to hone in on that and make sure that all those plants have exactly what they need. This year I didn't grow a ton of things we don't really eat. I think Swiss chard was one of the newer things that I decided to try this year. Tried more herbs, and we do eat herbs, but we haven't really grown any to eat fresh like that. But we have enjoyed having basil around, having lemon sage around, and those things will definitely be part of our garden next year. Over here is the pineapple sage, and we did not use this a ton at all. I'm gonna have to figure out some more recipes because this is actually a perennial for me, so it'll be back next year. So over winter I will have some time to kind of figure out where I want to go with this and what I want to do. I think I also might split it and put some of it into one of the beds back here, one of the landscape beds, and let it go nuts because it got really big over here in this spot. And I kind of want the hydrangeas to take over and not have this sage blocking out any sun or any light, and right now it's just huge, taking all the light. Down here are strawberries, and I don't know if I planted these too late or what, but they have not produced any fruit. I'm hoping that next year it will produce some fruit for us, because that's one of the things that is important, is having, you know, a fruit bed for the kids, or fruit that they can go out and pick every day or whenever and enjoy. So up here we have our fruit bed that I just dug out, and I still have not gotten any mulch to put in there. I need to do that, especially before it gets really cold. And I think there's a sale on mulch right now too. Anyway, so we've got blueberry plant here. There's a small blueberry there. This is a kiwi, a hardy kiwi. That is blackberry, and that's another blueberry. So I'm on the hunt for a raspberry, probably 2 raspberries, and then any other, you know, kind of berry bush shrub that I can find that would be great in this area and for my growing zone. So I'm on the lookout for that. Most of that stuff is winding down in the stores right now, so it'll probably be next year before I can really amp up this bed. But yeah, I mean, I'm super happy with this season. I've learned a lot, and I'm just excited to keep going. Can't wait.